This episode of Special Cowboy Moments provides a glimpse of the rich history that surrounds our Western roots. TC Energy understands the importance of capturing and sharing this culture for generations to come, and we would like to welcome you to this episode.
American Hat Company is a 103-year-old manufacturer of cowboy hats. That's all we do. We don't make baseball caps, we don't make t-shirts, we don't make Western shirts, we just make the finest cowboy hats in the world. Started in 1915, Houston, Texas, Bubba Silver, and I think Houston was 45,000 people at the time, and that's where it got started. Then Keith tried to buy the company in the mid-90s from Bill and Billy George, who owned it then. And they had put a deal together, and I believe the price was $20 million. And he went and put the money together, had some investors, and came back to them 3 months later and said, okay, I'm ready to do this. And they said, we changed our mind, we're gonna go ahead and give it to our kids. And so Keith and Susan tell the story of driving home. Susan thought he was gonna tear the steering wheel in half in the truck because he had it gripped so tight. And so, it was his dream to own a hat company. So when that didn't happen, then he started the best hat store in Fort Worth, Texas. And so they've had a retail store in Fort Worth for over 20 years now. And that's where he started. And then when American came back up for sale, or it would basically the kids run it in the ground. And when it came back available, he bought it from the bank and walked into the bank and paid cash, and they handed him the keys, and he was here the next day and opened up the building and started calling employees back to work. The lunches were still in the fridge, and they started it back up again. So he battled to buy it. He bought it, and now he's got a tiger by the tail. And you'd think that he would live happily ever after. Well, moved it here to Bowie, Texas. We had some. He's got some friends, close friends here in town, and they're on the Economic Development Board. This building was available, they owned the building, and so they made a deal to move it up here. So that was a ordeal in and of itself. Moved it up here, and then a fire came through Bowie, Texas, and we have 18 or 19 ocean-going containers in the parking lot. Turns out those ocean-going containers, we thought everything would be fine, but the way that the temperature was, it just sucked the smoke in, and we lost $13.5 million in raw hat bodies. So anybody else at that point, because getting the bodies and getting that inventory, that's the hard part. The raw materials is the hard part. Would have probably given up. But this is the true American story. So, I wasn't there, but I have this vision of him tipping his hat back on his head a little bit, kind of sitting back in his chair and pushing all of his chips to the middle of the table and just tapping it and said, I'm going to bet it all on American Hat Company. And some people probably would have said that's foolish, it didn't make any sense, but that's the American story, the American way. And he fought back. He had to get into the 401k, he had to get into mortgage and homes, borrowed money from really good friends, and he fought his way back. And his motto, and this is one of the things that I've learned from him, is if you never give up, you cannot be beaten. And so he just never gave up, never gave up. And people ask him to this day, said, did you ever envision it would be this good? And he goes, well, yeah, of course I did. He says, yeah, I knew it'd be this good. He says, I didn't know it was going to take this long, but I knew it would be this good. So that's just the kind of guy he is. He's a guy that inspires everybody around him. He says, I think you can walk on water. Most of us would take off and give it a try. He couldn't find a place to buy a really good hat. And so that was his frustration, and he just kept seeing the cowboy hat getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, and more X's and cheaper quality hats, and he didn't like that. And so he had the desire to make a good hat. He felt like there was a place for it in the market. And so, as any good entrepreneur, he found a hole in the market and filled it. And that's what he did here with American Hat Company. Keith Maddox is an icon in the Western business. You know, I know several other people in the Western business today that knew him from back in the day. They used to call him the Sky King. He was one of the first reps to own a plane, and he would fly to his accounts, you know, land, get in a loaner car, and go call on his accounts. He was a Tony Lama sales rep back in the heyday when they wore suits and ties when they called on people. The opening order was $45,000 if you wanted to be a Tony Lama dealer. And he's got great stories of that, but made, you know, a lot of money doing that and had a great reputation. Always dressed real nice, always a very positive guy. Was the kind of person who's got a contagious laugh. And so everybody wanted to sit at his table because that was the fun table.
Medora is a proud family tradition, one that goes back for generations. It can be a little escape or a full-fledged adventure. Whatever it is, Medora does something to you that keeps calling you back for more. Whether it's your first time or your 100th time, you're sure to love it every time. Your new favorite memories are here, so what are you waiting for? Explore it, adore it, Medora.
When looking for a new financial institution, forget the rest and head west. Head to Western Cooperative Credit Union. Whatever your financial need, we're the best in the West and probably everywhere else too. Western Cooperative Credit Union. Join the herd.
We have a great set of people, a great workforce, to be honest with you. And like Andre's 48 years, still lives in Houston, Texas, and so we are 5 hours away from Houston, Texas. And Andre leaves here Friday night and goes home and comes back here Sunday night.
It's an interesting story. I mean, you know, I was 12 years old. And I had just finished the 6th grade and was going to go into the 7th grade, so we had to change school to junior high. And on my way to school, there was a factory across the street from the school. So every day I would pass by there, and I was kind of curious, real curious what they make there. I would see just, a lot of people there, and I'd go stand by the window and just kind of take a peek inside, and a lot of people working. But I mean, back then, I thought of it as a hat, like just a hat. I didn't know. So one day, I was on my way to school, and some big, back in the day, those big cars, the car of the day was a big Buick Limited. So a big old Buick parked right in front of the factory, and I just happened to pass by, and a big gentleman stepped out and had a big bag on there, and he walked in, and he dropped it, I guess, and I looked at it, and I looked at the bag, and he walked in, and I went to the bag, and I opened it up, and there was like a bunch of rolls of money and rubber bands, and I thought about it a little bit. I said, what if I leave with it, or what am I going to do? And I said, but I wanted to see the inside of that place. So I went inside and I turned in the money to the owner, Bubba Silver at the time that he was the owner. And he says, well, thank you, son. And here you go. And pulled out a $20 bill, gave it to me. I said, oh, well, I mean, well, what about it? I want a job, And he said, well, you're too young. I says, well, what if I work just, in the evenings when I get off of school? I said, you know what, come tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. And I went the next day. I asked permission from school to get out early, and I went the next day, and he hired me that day as a cleanup boy. I think I was making 90 cents an hour. That's how much I was making back then. And I stayed cleaning up for a couple of years, and by the time I turned 18, I was helping run the straw department at that time. And by the time I was 21, I was practically running, a department, and at that time, it wasn't heard of, when I started working there, they would have to hide me there, because I was too young to be there. And when customers come in, or important people came in, they go hide somewhere, and I would go hide somewhere until they left, and that's how I did it for a couple of years until I turned 18, and then I started working full time. At that time, everybody was out there in the prom and doing all their stuff at that age that they do, but not me. I was making hats. I'm making straw hats, and I loved it. I just fell in love with it, and I've been there ever since. I've been some up and downs and stuff like that, but I've had some good people that have trained me, older people that have trained me in the right way, and I try to, train the people now the way they used to train me back in the day, because that's when you really, when you made a hat back then, you made a hat, and today with the technology and stuff and all that, I mean, it's a little different, but, basically hats have not changed much in 100 years, the way you make them. It's just the technology and everything has changed in that way, but not in hat making. And I learned the old-fashioned way. I made them by hand back in the day, We made them by hand, and very rarely did we use machines, like we do now. But that was the way I learned how to make hats, I tell a lot of people that I was here so when I was 12 years old. I was practically born here, and I couldn't flip a burger. I couldn't do anything else, but I'm a hat maker. I make hats for a living, so I couldn't do anything else. So this is what I do. This is what I've chosen.
When I first got here, it was a little bit of an uphill battle. Our felt hats are about the same price, but a lot better quality as our competitors. But our straw hats were a little bit more expensive because of the process that we use on them, the petroleum-based lacquer and the multiple dips. And we take a little more time to make our straw hats. They're hand woven. And so you know, I would talk to a dealer and they would say, whoa, that's a lot of money. I don't think I can sell it for that price. And, you know, Keith had a famous saying. He says, if you're going to sell based on price, you're going to battle the guy at the carnival right between the tilt-a-whirl and cotton candy. And you can't win that battle, so you better figure out quality. And so his charge to me when I came to work for him was, we are going to build the finest hat in the world. And he said, we're not going to cut any corners. We're not going to, you know, we've had customers ask us to sell them a 10X hat, but we'll put 20X in it and we can sell a lot more of them. He said, absolutely not, he won't do it. So he's a stickler on, he's a fanatic on quality, and that's his thing, is quality. So when he comes to the factory, the first thing he's doing is feeling hats and checking hats that are up here in the front, making sure that the quality stays right there.
Ours are diverse cowboys who come in every sex, shape, color, and creed. They come from Wyoming, Montana, Delaware, and Nigeria. The kind of spirit that longs for something to prove. The kind that emboldens those who possess it to stand on the perimeter and howl into the unknown with unbendable optimism. The world needs more people to pick up the torch of progress and fearlessly venture onwards. The world needs more cowboys.
Favor the same old hat and these worn out pair of boots. Sticking with tradition, proud of my roots. Raised up on common sense. Granddad showed me the way.
Why settle for free checking when you can have free checking with bells and whistles? Get Casasa checking at Western Cooperative Credit Union and get rewarded for doing what you do. ATM refunds, interest, cash back, and more. Western Cooperative Credit Union. Join the herd.
Trails West has been producing the best horse and stock trailers in the industry for over 30 years. And now we're excited to present our exceptional line of slant load trailer models. Our slant load trailers are top sellers for a reason. Their durability and longevity are unmatched in the industry. We invite you to visit your local Trails West dealer today and start dreaming of your next adventure. Trails West, the only trailer in its class.
This life, full of moments, big moments, small moments, in between moments. It's about missing out on nothing and celebrating everything. It's how we at First International Bank and Trust live first and have been for over 100 years. One customer, one family, one moment at a time. First International Bank and Trust. Live first.
It's probably been the biggest blessing of my life to, you know, get to work with Keith Maddox. I mean, he is a positive person. Like I said earlier, everybody wants to sit at his table because that's the table that's having the most fun no matter where they're at. And guarantee he's laughing and having a great time. He's just one of those people. I've learned a lot from him. He doesn't have a canned presentation, but a planned presentation. So when someone's talking about a hat, for instance, if somebody's got price issues or whatever, you know, we know how to overcome those things. We know how, because it's their mindset. You know, when I talk to a dealer and they go, well, how much is this hat going to cost me? You know, when I reply to that, I said, I'm confused. What do you mean, how much is it going to cost you? You're not going to keep it. You're going to sell it. You're going to make money every time you sell that hat. If you're buying them to keep, you're in the wrong business. You know, you want to make money on these hats. So these hats will make you money. The same thing. The right product makes you money. The wrong product costs you money. And so our goal is just to, we position the brand. You know, you think about the brand itself. I'm a huge fan of branding. I've read all kinds of branding books. Any kind of branding book I can get my hands on, from Coca-Cola, Good to Great, all this stuff about branding. And we have a 103-year-old company, and it's called American Hat Company, and we make cowboy hats. And what better symbol of the great iconic American cowboy? What thing is there that's more Americana than the cowboy hat? Anywhere that you put me, I've been to Portugal this year and I've been to Brazil, and I've worn my hat in both places, and in both places I have gotten favor. When I mean favor, like somebody at the hotel or the driver taking us from the airport, they treat you a little differently. They say, are you a cowboy? First they'll say, are you from Texas? And then you say yes, and they say, ooh, you're a cowboy, and that's, I don't consider myself to be, a cowboy in the sense of the word. If you put me out to, on a 1,000-acre ranch, I'm not that guy, but I have a love for it. So I've run into people that say, well, I live in New York City, so I can't wear a cowboy hat. And I like to tell those guys, it's not where you live, it's a state of what's in your heart and what's in your head. If at night you go up to your penthouse suite, and when you lay your head on the pillow, if you dream of big wide open spaces, blue skies, and white puffy clouds, guess what? You're a cowboy, in your heart. So, you have a right to wear a hat, so carry on the traditions and the symbols, just like the high school kids, it comes with a responsibility to wear that hat. I was standing with a dealer in Las Vegas, and a gal walks into their booth and she buys a $130 wool hat, basically. And I'm looking at her, and she's got the right boots and the right jeans, and she's got a very expensive purse because that's the one my wife wants, I know. And, her hair's done, her makeup's done, and, she buys a $130 wool hat and off she goes. And I looked at my dealer and I said, boy, she'll never buy anything from you again when she finds out what you just did to her. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I said, oh my gosh. I said, she's going to go back with her friends that brought her here to the rodeo, and they're going to go, oh, sweetie, that hat ain't the right hat. You got the wrong hat. And I go, she doesn't know. And he says, no, that's all she wanted. Well, we continued talking about a bunch of other things, and about 45 minutes later, here she come back up the aisle, and one side of her hat was drooping a little bit. And at that point, I wasn't going to say anything. I'm just, kind of in the background. She was wanting to get that fixed. And so I don't know if he thought he was going to throw me under the bus or how that was going to work, but he introduced me as the president of American Hat Company. So she said, is this your hat? And I said, no, ma'am, that's not her hat. She goes, well, do you like the hat? And I said, it's got a wonderful buckle set on it, and she says, well, but do you like my hat? And I said, and I reached in my pocket, I had a money clip, and pulled it out, and I said, I'll give you $130 not to wear the hat. And she goes, why would you do that? And I said, well, you got the right boots, the right jeans, the right belt, the right purse, your makeup's done, your nails are done, your hair's done, I obviously care about your appearance. And I said, the hat detracts from that. And she goes, well, I don't know, what do I need? And so I let her feel a 10X, and she goes, okay, what's next? 20X, what's next? 40X, and I'm thinking, that's probably where you need to settle. It's a $500 hat, $480 hat, and it's a great hat. That's our volume hat. She goes, what's next? 200X. What's next? 500X. What's next? 1000X. She goes, how much is that one? I go, $2,000. She goes, well, how much is the 500? I go, it's just like $1,200 and some odd dollars. And she says, that's the one I want. And so she says, can you shape it like that one? I said, yeah, without the dip, though, right? And she said, yeah, without the dip. And so, she went from $130 to a $1,200 hat just because we told her the whole story.
I've been a cowboy most of my life. I punched a lot of cattle, got in a few fights, and I've been around a time or two. I've made a little money, I spent a little too.